Hey guys, here's your friend Genzianella. Welcome to my home, and in particular, welcome to our first time with Genzianella Stays. Today I'm gonna tell you the story of Giotto, the dancing Lagotto. Are you ready? Here we go. It was so hot that day at the Lagotto dog breeding center. Up to that moment, summer had given hotter and hotter days. On that particular day, besides the heat, one could feel a light, crisp breeze, which was unusual for the time of year, as if it wanted to mark a special day. And that was in fact the case. It really was a special day at the Lagotto dog breeding center. By the way, for those who are not familiar with the subject, the Lagotto is a breed of dog with curly hair, similar to a poodle. Only the Lagotto is bigger. This breed of dogs is famous around the world for being excellent truffle finders. Truffles, you know, are like mushrooms that grow underground, and Lagottos, thanks to their excellent sense of smell, can manage to find the biggest and most expensive ones you've ever seen. One of the funniest features of Lagottos is that their hair keeps on growing, and if it's not trimmed regularly, they tend to look like fairy bells. As I was telling you, it was a special day because Sally, a beautiful, dreamy-eyed female Lagotto, was going to give birth to her puppies. And so she did, not without a certain amount of effort on her part. And the result were 7 wonderful light brown Lagotto puppies, who are soon to be the stars of the breeding center. After only 2 months, the 7 puppies had become so beautiful that one couldn't help looking at them. They spent the day playing, eating and napping. One of them was named Giotto and had 2 particular characteristics. The first one was that one of his front paws was completely white, as if he had dipped it in a cup of milk. But it was the second characteristic that made Giotto an exceptional dog. While his brothers and sisters spent the day chasing each other and having fun, and to be honest, he liked it too, Giotto liked listening to the radio that Riccardo, the owner of the breeding center, would turn on every morning before starting to work. Giotto loved listening to the music, and when he did, he started moving his body, following the rhythm of the melody. Sometimes he would stand on his hind legs and move to the rhythm, as if he was actually dancing. One day, a man who was visiting the breeding center with his wife saw Giotto and exclaimed, "Hey love, look! A tiny little dancing Lagotto!" And so it happened that Giotto was the first dog in the breeding center who could dance. However, Aldo, Giotto's father, wasn't happy at all about this particular characteristic of his son. He would always say, "You should give up once and for all this dancing nonsense and start training seriously in order to become a proper truffle dog. This is a Lagotto's purpose in life." As a matter of fact, Riccardo, after a few days, started training Giotto and his siblings to find truffles, with Aldo's help, since the latter was indeed one of the most famous truffle dogs in the world. In a short time, Giotto's brothers and sisters became very good at finding truffles, and their dad was very proud that his puppies were following in his footsteps. Except for Giotto. Our poor dancing Lagotto was as good as dancing as he was hopeless at truffle hunting. He couldn't even find one of them. Soon all his brothers and sisters were adopted by people who were in the truffle business, and Giotto was the only one in the whole litter who didn't find a new family. Giotto was sad, but he didn't give up and did his best to show everyone that he could become a good truffle dog. Unfortunately, however, he didn't succeed. One evening, Giotto decided to go and see his friend Brando to have a nice talk and cheer up a little bit. Brando was a frog who lived in a pond not very far from the breeding center. He, like Giotto, was quite peculiar. In spite of the fact that he was a frog, he couldn't swim. But this, of course, is another story. Giotto told Brando the whole story and said, Now you know how I feel, my friend. Everybody expects me to hunt for truffles, but I simply can't. Can you imagine? I mean, even if I put lots of effort into it, I can't make it. Brando, who had been listening carefully to the whole story and who was fond of his friend, asked him,
Giotto, my friend, tell me this. Do you enjoy hunting for truffles?
Without even thinking, Giotto answered, No, I don't.
And why do you do it then?
Brando said,
Why are you getting crazy doing something you aren't able to do and you don't even like, when you could do what you really like and be happy?
That was the moment Giotto finally understood. You are right, Brando. Being a Lagotto doesn't necessarily mean being good at finding truffles. I, for instance, have other characteristics, other abilities. And so it was. Giotto, even if he was a Lagotto, wasn't born to be a truffle dog. Giotto, my dear friends, was born to be a dancer. His father Aldo, however, was not of the same opinion.
How come you don't want to be a truffle dog any longer? What on earth would you want to do?
I'd simply like to be myself and do what I like. And I like dancing, Dad. And then I'd like to be adopted by a good human and travel around the world with them. Aldo could not believe his ears.
Stop talking nonsense! Forget about dancing and traveling the world with your human!
But Dad,
You are a Lagotto! A truffle dog! And as such you must behave. No human would ever want to adopt a Lagotto who can hunt for truffles and can only dance. Now off to bed, since you have training tomorrow morning. You'll see, with some effort and hard work on your part, one day you'll be a proper truffle dog.
That night, Giotto fell asleep with a heavy heart. A few days later, Riccardo took Giotto, Aldo, and other dogs to the annual Lagotto exhibition. It was a world-renowned event where all Lagotto dogs were shown, so that they could be adopted. Truffle hunts were also organized so that the visitor could have an idea of the truffle dog's incredible skills. The fair was also famous for the delicacies that could be tasted at the various stalls and for the shows to entertain the public. Riccardo was preparing Giotto for a truffle hunting competition when something caught Giotto's attention like a magnet. A wonderful melody, which came from the big central stage, was accompanying the exhibition of a stunning blonde dancer. Her name was Lorena. And more than dancing, she seemed to be flying on that stage. Just looking at her, Giotto felt an overwhelming emotion seizing him. An indescribable energy got hold of him, and Giotto could no longer control himself. Running like a bolt of lightning, he jumped on stage and started dancing in his own peculiar way. The audience was flabbergasted. They couldn't believe their eyes. Lorena also stopped dancing for a moment, surprised at what she was witnessing. It was then that Giotto stood on his hind legs and approached her, while dancing. When he got near her, she took his paws in her hands and they started dancing together. The audience looked breathlessly at the extraordinary show. It was as if the whole world had stopped to watch Lorena and Giotto dancing together. Among the audience, Aldo was moved like never before in his life by what he saw. When Lorena and Giotto stopped dancing, they received such a long applause that it never seemed to end. A little later, Lorena talked to Riccardo and adopted Giotto. Giotto's dream came true. He would travel around the world dancing with Lorena. When the time came to leave his family, Giotto said goodbye to Mom and Dad. Aldo told him before letting him go,
Go, my son, and be happy. Take care of your human and remember, you are Giotto, the dancing Lagotto, and your dad is proud of you.
Giotto and Lorena left and started their new adventure together. Our friend's heart was full of joy. This was the story of Giotto, the dancing Lagotto. Now, all I have to do is say, see you next time for the next episode. Oh, and remember, smile, because life is good, fella. Listen to Genzianella.